Welcome to Obscure Nameless Killer's Iceberg. As the name implies, this is an iceberg that has a lot of obscure, unidentified killers. This video is part 3, comprised of the layers 9 and 10 of the iceberg. Don't forget to leave a like if you find it interesting and subscribe if you want to be notified when another video drops. The Tyumen maniac is an alleged Russian serial killer believed to have caused a string of child disappearances in Tyumen since 1997. The first case involved 2-year-old Nikolai Ivanov, followed by 17-year-old Lyubov Simonova in the same year. The pattern continued, targeting children like 13-year-old Irina Kazyanova in 1998 and several others. Authorities suspect the killer's involvement in at least 8 murders. Despite investigations, the perpetrator remained elusive for years until 2021, when 40-year-old Vitaly Bereznoy was arrested. Profilers believe the killer is likely well-regarded in the community and may have worked with accomplices early on. The Tynong North and Frankston murders refer to 6 women and girls abducted, murdered, and left in remote bushland between 1980 and 1981. On May 30th, 1980, Allison Rook, 59, disappeared after car trouble and was found dead in July. Bertha Miller, 73, vanished in August, followed by Catherine Headland, 14, and Anne-Marie Sargent, 18. All 3 were found in December 1980. Narimal Stevenson, 34, went missing in November 1980, and her remains were discovered in February 1983. The final victim, Joy Summers, 55, disappeared in October 1981, with her body located a month later. These murders remain unsolved. The Toronto hospital baby deaths occurred between July 1980 and March 1981 in the cardiac ward of the hospital for sick children. A spike in infant mortality was noted after the cardiology ward was split into 2. Nurses raised concerns in late 1980, but the hospital limited internal investigations. Suspicion fell on digoxin, a heart medication found in unusually high levels in several deceased babies. Susan Nels, one of 3 nurses investigated, was charged with 4 murders but acquitted in 1982. An inquiry later listed 8 murders and 13 suspicious deaths, although some experts questioned the role of digoxin. Ireland's Vanishing Triangle refers to the unsolved disappearances of women between the late 1980s and late 1990s, mainly in the Leinster area. The women, aged between late teens and late 30s, disappeared suddenly with no evidence of their whereabouts. The cases share similarities, leading to theories of a possible serial killer. Despite large-scale searches, no bodies have been found. Victims include Annie McCarrick, who disappeared in 1993 and was declared a murder case in 2023, and Josephine Dullard, who vanished in 1995 while hitchhiking. Gardaí investigations continue, but the mystery remains unsolved to this day. The Kodakathana murders, starting in 2008, left 18 women dead in Kahawati and nearby areas in Sri Lanka. The killings targeted women, mostly elderly, and included 3 double murders. The first victim, Selaiya Mariamma, was murdered in July 2008. As the years passed, the brutality escalated, with some victims' their homes set on fire. Despite arrests, many cases were unresolved, including the notorious double murders in 2012. In December 2015, a breakthrough came when a 35-year-old man's DNA linked him to 6 murders. The investigation revealed patterns, but authorities believe not all murders are connected. Between 2000 and 2002, 10 men died under mysterious circumstances in San Juan del Sur, Nicaragua, sparking rumors of a serial killer, dubbed the San Juan del Sur psychopath. The most notable murder was that of José Antonio Castillo Torres in 2002, found with severe head injuries near his home. Several other deaths, including those of José Santos Merlo Acuña and José Casimiro Salas Chavez, were suspicious, but most lacked clear evidence of foul play. A German national was arrested, but later released due to insufficient evidence. Authorities could only confirm Castillo's murder, while other cases remained unsolved. The Belize Ripper is an unidentified serial killer linked to the abduction and murder of 5 girls in Belize City from 1998 to 2000. The first victim, 13-year-old Sherilyn Nicholas, went missing on September 8, 1998, and was found murdered a month later, showing signs of horrific violence. Subsequent victims included 12-year-old Jackie Malik, whose body was discovered in March 1999, and 8-year-old Erica Wills, whose remains were identified in July 1999. The last confirmed victim was 14-year-old Noemi Hernandez, found on February 24, 2000. Despite investigations by the FBI and Scotland Yard, the case remains unsolved, with no convictions made. The Brabant killers were responsible for a series of violent attacks in Belgium's Brabant province from 1982 to 1985. This gang comprised of 3 unidentified men: the Giant, the Killer, and the Old Man, left 28 dead and 22 injured during their crime spree. Despite extensive investigations, their identities remain unknown. The gang's brutality and unusual tactics, like killing bystanders without clear motives, shocked the nation. The case, marked by missing evidence and investigative failures, sparked widespread speculation about possible ties to state security elements. In 2024, Belgian authorities officially closed the investigation, leaving the crimes unsolved. Between January 1996 and July 1997, the Belgian city of Mons was shaken by a series of brutal murders, attributed to an unidentified serial killer dubbed the Butcher of Mons. This name was given due to the precise dismemberment of 5 victims, whose remains were placed in garbage bags and left in conspicuous locations. The first discovery in March 1997 involved 9 bags found by police officer Olivier Mott, with the dismembered remains of 3 women. Over the following months, more victims were identified, including Carmelina Russo, Martine Bone, Jacqueline Leclerc, Natalie Goddard, and Begonia Valencia. Between 2005 and 2007, a serial killer known as the B1 Butcher terrorized Namibia, murdering at least 5 women. The nickname came from the killer's method of leaving dismembered remains near National Road B1, often wrapped in garbage bags. The first bodies appeared in 2005, with 2 additional victims found in 2007. While 3 women, Juanita Mabula, Melanie Jantz, and Sana Helena Garros, were identified, 2 victims remain unnamed. Investigators suspected several individuals, but no definitive connections were proven. The last known murder occurred in 2007, leaving the B1 Butcher's identity a mystery to this day. Between the 1960s and 1970s, the monster of the Mangonis terrorized Cali, Colombia, murdering an estimated 30 to 38 pre-adolescent and teenage boys. Kidnappings began in 1963, when the body of a paperboy was discovered, followed by a string of brutal murders. Victims were often found in remote lots known as Mangonis, with their bodies exhibiting signs of extreme violence. The killer's modus operandi involved torturous acts, including inserting needles into the heart. Despite numerous investigations, the monster was never captured, leaving a haunting legacy that inspired the 1982 film Pura Sangre, which delved into themes of vampirism and survival. The monster of Udine, an unidentified serial killer, haunted the province of Udine, Italy, between 1971 and 1989, with at least 4 confirmed victims. The first known murder occurred on September 21, 1971, when Irene Belletti was stabbed multiple times. This was followed by the killings of Maria Carla Belloni in February 1980, Luana Giambricaro in January 1983, and Marina Lepper in February 1989. Each victim was found with a careful abdominal incision, suggesting a medical background. In 2019, a lawyer sought to reopen the cold case after new evidence emerged, raising the possibility of multiple murderers and a larger number of victims. El Sicapata, an unidentified serial killer, terrorized Costa Rica from 1986 to 1996, claiming the lives of 19 victims in the regions of Cartago, Curitibat, and Desamparados. Known for targeting single women and couples in secluded areas, he earned the moniker due to his brutal methods. The first confirmed murder occurred in 1986, leading to a chilling series of attacks that left the public in fear. Authorities believed he might have been a Costa Rican living in Nicaragua with potential ties to influential families. Despite several suspects and an extensive investigation, the killer was never apprehended, leaving a haunting legacy. The family murders refer to a series of 5 brutal murders in Adelaide, Australia, between the 1970s and 1980s, attributed to a loosely connected group known as the family. Victims aged 14 to 25 were often abducted and mutilated. The term family was coined after a police detective statement about breaking up their happy family. Bevan Spencer Von Einem was convicted in 1984 for the murder of 15-year-old Richard Kelvin, but remained the only person charged. Despite ongoing investigations and DNA testing, many believe the true extent of the group's crimes may involve numerous unsolved cases and potential victims. The Danilovsky maniac is an unidentified serial killer believed to have murdered at least 7 individuals in Cherepovets, Russia, between 2004 and 2007. His moniker originates from 3 murders committed at an abandoned construction site on Danilovsky Street. Investigators accumulated 18 volumes of evidence and interviewed around 200 people. Notable cases include the disappearances of Marina Ostrovskaya in February 2004, and the subsequent killings of Irina Popova and Tatiana Biva later that year. By 2024, the killer remains at large, with authorities collecting DNA samples from older men in the area, as local theories speculate on his fate, either dead or in prison elsewhere. The Dayton Strangler, an unidentified serial killer, haunted Dayton, Ohio, from 1900 to 1909, leaving behind 6 victims, 5 women and 1 man. The terror began with the brutal murder of 11-year-old Ada Lance on October 14, 1900. Following her, Donna Gilman disappeared in 1906, her body discovered with signs of struggle. In 1907, Anna Markowitz and Abe Cohan were attacked in McCabe Park, leading to their deaths, while the mysterious murders continued with 15-year-old Mary Forshner and 18-year-old Elizabeth Foulhard in early 1909. Despite numerous arrests, including wrongful convictions, the case remains unsolved, haunting the city's history. Between 1904 and 1910, the Cumminsville Killer, also known as the Cumminsville Ripper, terrorized Cincinnati's Cumminsville neighborhood. Believed to have claimed 5 victims, the killer emerged amidst a bustling era marked by heavy rail traffic, with major transit lines crisscrossing the area. His first victim, Mary McDonald, was brutally murdered in April 1904, her body discovered by a freight train engineer. This murder was soon followed by several others, including 18-year-old Alma Steinigwig, who was found battered in a cemetery. The Cumminsville Killer's reign of terror raised connections to the Dayton Strangler, whose crimes mirrored those in Cumminsville, leaving a chilling mark on the region. Between 1986 and 1989, the Colonial Parkway in Virginia became the backdrop for a series of chilling murders, with at least 8 victims linked to the notorious killer. Initially, the bodies of Kathleen Thomas and Rebecca Dowski, a couple, were discovered on October 12, 1986, in Thomas's car, brutally strangled and nearly decapitated. In 1988, David Nobeling and Robin Edwards met a similar fate, their bodies found along the James River. As investigators delved deeper, DNA linked the murders to local fisherman Alan Wilmer, who had died in 2017. The mystery of these tragic killings continues to haunt Virginia. The Chilabwe murders, a grim chapter in Malawi's history, unfolded between November 1968 and March 1970, claiming at least 30 victims in the suburbs of Blantyre. The murders, characterized by brutal mutilation, sparked widespread rumors, implicating the South African government in a conspiracy to collect debts from Malawi through human sacrifice. Political tensions mounted as President Hastings Banda faced public outcry over the government's inability to solve the crimes. Despite several arrests, including Wala Lani Kawisa, who confessed to multiple murders, the full truth remained elusive. The unresolved killings cast a shadow over Banda's regime and sparked speculation about deeper political motives. Between 1988 and 1998, Iran witnessed a series of chilling murders dubbed the Chain Murders, targeting over 80 dissidents, including writers and political activists critical of the Islamic Republic. The pattern emerged with the gruesome slayings of Dariush Fourahar and his wife in November 1998, igniting public outrage. Government operatives carried out the killings, often disguising them as accidents or heart attacks. Despite investigations that pointed to rogue elements within the Ministry of Intelligence, many believed higher officials orchestrated the crimes. The scandal highlighted a struggle against cultural and political reform, leaving the true motives shrouded in secrecy and fear. Between August 1980 and November 1986, a chilling series of castration murders unfolded across at least 5 American states. The first victim, 27-year-old Willard Judd, was discovered near the North Platte River in Wyoming, shot 10 times. In 1981, 30-year-old Wayne Reifendiefer was found in Pennsylvania, while 21-year-old Marty Shook's mutilated body surfaced in Utah in 1982. The last known victim, Jack Franklin Andrews, was dismembered in Connecticut in 1986. Initially viewed as isolated incidents, forensic evidence in 1989 linked Reifendiefer and Shook to the same .38 caliber revolver. Despite ongoing investigations, the killer remains unidentified, leaving these cases cold. In early 1946, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders gripped the nation as 4 horrific crimes unfolded over just 10 weeks. Starting on February 22nd, young couples were brutally attacked on weekends at isolated spots, marking a chilling spree that left 5 dead. Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry were the first victims, followed by Richard Griffin and Polly and Moore, and then Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker. The final took place on May 3rd, claiming the lives of Virgil and Katie Starks at their farmhouse. Despite extensive investigations and numerous suspects, including Yowell Swinney, the elusive phantom killer remains unidentified, haunting the memories of Texarkana residents even today. In 2011, Chelyabinsk became the unsettling backdrop for the crimes of the unidentified murderer known as the Pharmacy Maniac. On May 26th, the assailant, clad in a medical mask and hat, entered a Classica pharmacy and demanded money. After robbing patrons, he shot 49-year-old Vladimir Shin as he tried to flee. Just over 2 months later, on August 10th, the killer returned to a different Classica pharmacy, shooting 30-year-old Igor Ustinov multiple times without stealing anything. Witnesses reported the man's erratic behavior, prompting police to investigate a possible serial killer. To this day, the Pharmacy Maniac remains at large, and his motives remain elusive. In 1966, a string of suspicious deaths at Riverdale Hospital in Bergen County, New Jersey, sparked a major investigation into the practices of Dr. Mario Jaskelevich, an Argentina-born surgeon. Initially, 9 patients died under mysterious circumstances post-surgery, leading to the discovery of nearly empty curare vials in Jaskelevich's locker. The case went cold until a 1975 newspaper investigation revived interest, linking Jaskelevich to 5 murder charges in 1976. Despite strong suspicion and forensic evidence, he was acquitted in 1978 after a lengthy trial. Jaskelevich's medical license was revoked in 1980, and he returned to Argentina, where he died in 1984. The case remains unresolved. The North Kanto young girl serial kidnapping and murder case began in 1979, targeting young girls in Tochigi and Gunma prefectures of Japan. Between 1979 and 1996, 4 girls were murdered and 1 went missing. Investigative journalist Kiyoshi Shimizu uncovered evidence linking these cases, including the Ashikaga murder case, to a single perpetrator. His findings exonerated Toshikazu Sugaya, wrongfully convicted in the Ashikaga case. Despite the acknowledgement of a serial nature and new DNA evidence pointing to a suspect, no arrests have been made. The unresolved cases remain a haunting legacy, with calls for justice from families and advocates ongoing. Gary Randall Muehlberg, born February 27, 1949, in St. Louis, Missouri, gained infamy as the package killer. Between 1990 and 1993, he murdered at least 4 women and 1 man. His early life was marked by a stable upbringing, but after serving in the Army, his criminal behavior escalated. Arrested for robbery in the 1970s, he was deemed insane but released after treatment. By the late 1980s, Muehlberg had turned to drugs and prostitution. His killing spree began in 1990, culminating in the murder of Kenneth Atchison in 1993. Convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, his past crimes remained unsolved until DNA linked him to the murders in 2022, leading to additional life sentences. The Pittsburgh serial murders, which occurred between late 1998 and early 1999, involved the killings of 1 man and 4 women in Pittsburgh, California. Public anxiety surged as the community grappled with a high crime rate. The first victim, 27-year-old Michael Tan, was discovered on November 9, 1998, drowned after being beaten. 15-year-old Lisa Norrell went missing soon after, her body found on November 14. The following month, Jessica Frederick, a 27-year-old prostitute, was discovered stabbed. Rachel Cruz, 32, and Valerie Schultz, 27, were also murdered. Despite extensive investigations, including a reward from Governor Gray Davis, the case remains unsolved. Between 1978 and 1992, the United States was haunted by a chilling series of unsolved homicides dubbed the Redhead Murders. This grim label refers to the deaths of red-headed women found along major highways in states like Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Many victims were identified posthumously, with their lives often marked by estrangement or transient lifestyles. Notable victims include Lisa Nichols, discovered in 1984, and Tina Farmer, whose remains were identified in 2018. Investigators grapple with the possibility of a single perpetrator, leading to speculation about connections to the Bible Belt Strangler. The case remains an unsettling enigma, echoing through the years. The Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, occurring between 1972 and 1973 in California, involve at least 7 unsolved homicides of young female hitchhikers. The timeline began on February 4, 1972, when 12-year-old Maureen Sterling and 13-year-old Yvonne Weber vanished after visiting an ice rink. Their bodies were discovered in December, with signs suggesting they had been restrained. Following were other tragic cases, including 19-year-old Kim Wendy Allen, found in March, and 13-year-old Lori Corsa, whose remains were uncovered in December 1972. Despite extensive investigations and numerous suspects, the killer remains unidentified, leaving these chilling crimes in the shadows of mystery. In the 1970s and 1980s, the Frankfurt Rhine-Main area was gripped by a chilling series of murders known as the sewer murders. Over 7 years, 7 male adolescents, aged 11 to 18, fell victim to a brutal assailant. The boys, often linked to the seedy underbelly of prostitution, were discovered with their hands bound and showing signs of blunt force trauma or drowning in sewage. The investigation pointed to a potential suspect, a 50-year-old with a history of misconduct. Despite numerous leads and chilling discoveries, the case remains unsolved, casting a shadow over the region and its past. The smiley face murder theory emerged in the late 1990s, positing that 45 young men found dead in bodies of water across the Midwest were victims of serial killers, not accidental drownings. Retired detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, along with Dr. Lee Gilbertson, connected the murders to graffiti depicting smiley faces near where the bodies were discovered. Despite their efforts, including a plea to the FBI, law enforcement largely dismissed the theory as unsupported. Critics argue the deaths were alcohol-related drownings, with the smiley face graffiti seen as coincidence rather than evidence of a serial killer's presence. The debate continues to evoke skepticism. In 1977, the South County car bomber unleashed a wave of terror in South St. Louis County, Missouri, with a series of deadly bombings. The first incident occurred on October 7th, injuring Ronald Sturgos, who narrowly escaped death. Tragedy struck again on October 18th, when Shirley Marie Flynn was killed, followed by Robert Curtis Jackson on November 3rd. Despite extensive investigations, the police were unable to solve the cases, leading to speculation about a deranged individual targeting random victims. Authorities noted striking similarities between these bombings and a March 1978 incident in Paducah, Kentucky, where Flynn's former boyfriend was severely injured. In the summer of 1991, New Orleans became the hunting ground for a serial killer dubbed the Storyville Slayer, who targeted at least 24 vulnerable women, predominantly African-American prostitutes and drug addicts. Victims were often strangled, with their bodies dumped in isolated canals, leading to extreme decomposition and identification challenges. The first known victim, 17-year-old Danielle Britton, was discovered on August 4, 1991. Over the next 2 years, the killings escalated, with bodies frequently found near highways. Investigators considered 2 suspects, Victor Gant, a police officer with ties to one victim, and Russell Elwood, a troubled man whose confessions emerged from prison conversations, ultimately leading to his conviction for 1 murder and life imprisonment in 1999. Since 1996, U.S. Route 29 in Virginia has been shadowed by an unsettling pattern of disappearances. 5 young women vanished between 2009 and 2014, intensifying fears of a potential serial killer. Among the notorious cases are Morgan Dana Harrington, Alexis Murphy, and Hannah Graham, whose tragic fates ended with convictions. The Route 29 stalker linked to earlier incidents was never caught. Richard Mark Evenitz, a suspected serial killer, took his own life in 2002 amid investigations. Despite extensive inquiries, many cases remain cold, leaving families in anguish as law enforcement grapples with possible connections among these heartbreaking stories. The Tube Sock killings refer to a series of unsolved murders near Mineral, Washington, in 1985. On August 10th, Stephen Harkins and his girlfriend, Ruth Cooper, disappeared during a camping trip. 4 days later, Harkins was found shot in the head, his body in a sleeping bag. Nearby, their dog had also been killed. Later, Cooper's skull was discovered, and her body was found with a tube sock tied around her neck. On December 12th, Mike Reamer, his girlfriend Diana Robertson, and their daughter vanished. In February 1986, Robertson's body was found, similarly bound. Reamer's remains surfaced in 2011, deepening the mystery. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, a previously overlooked serial killer named Paul Mueller roamed North America, leaving a trail of death with a shocking minimum of 59 victims. Research began with the infamous Villisca Axe murders in 1912, where a family of 6 was brutally killed. Further investigation revealed a pattern of similar crimes across various states, characterized by entire families being slaughtered, often late at night, with axes left at the scenes. Many victims showed signs of struggle, particularly young girls, suggesting a sadistic motive. The killer vanished around 1912, leading to speculation about his fate. Between 1979 and 1982, the Lewiston-Clarkston area of northern Idaho witnessed a string of unsolved murders and disappearances linked to a single suspect. The tragic case began with the disappearance of 12-year-old Christina White at a county fair in April 1979. Her body was never found. In June 1981, Kristen David, a 22-year-old university student, vanished while biking. Her dismembered remains were discovered weeks later in the Snake River. In September 1982, Christina Nelson and her stepsister, Jacqueline Miller, disappeared, along with janitor Stephen Pearsall. Their remains were located in 1984, while Pearsall was never found. Investigators suspect a single killer connected to these tragic events. In the shadows of 1930s Cleveland, the Cleveland torso murderer, or the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, haunted the impoverished neighborhoods, claiming at least 13 victims. Many hailed from the Roaring Third, an area rife with vice. Known for gruesome dismemberments, the killer evaded capture despite investigations led by Elliot Ness, who raided shantytowns and sought justice through unorthodox methods. The chilling legacy of the murders persisted until 2024, when the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office initiated a partnership with the DNA Doe Project to exhume the victims, employing modern genetic genealogy to identify those lost to a dark chapter of history. Between 1887 and 1889, London was gripped by the Thames torso murders, a series of gruesome killings of women, often associated with the infamous Jack the Ripper. This series included 4 main cases: the Raynham Mystery, the Whitehall Mystery, Elizabeth Jackson's murder, and the Pinchin Street torso murder. Each incident involved dismembered bodies discovered throughout the city. The Raynham Mystery began in May 1887, with a female torso found in the Thames. The Whitehall Mystery followed in 1888, where dismembered remains were discovered near Scotland Yard. Elizabeth Jackson's case surfaced in June 1889, leading to the identification of a pregnant woman. Finally, the Pinchin Street murder emerged later that year, with a headless torso found under a railway arch. Despite extensive investigations, none of the cases were solved, leaving a chilling legacy of violence in Victorian London. In 1981, the Shinjuku Kabukicho Love Hotel murders shocked Tokyo, leaving 3 women dead and a 4th narrowly escaping. The first victim, known as Hostess A, was found strangled in the New El Sky Hotel on March 19th. Just over a month later, Hostess B was discovered in the Coca Palace Hotel, her clothes missing, heightening fears of a serial killer. The third victim, Xiaozhou A, was discovered alive but succumbed to her injuries shortly after being found with her hands and feet bound. The attempted murder of another hostess later that June linked the crimes to a well-dressed suspect who evaded capture. Following these events, Love Hotels began installing security cameras, marking a shift in safety practices within the area. From 1971 to 1974, the Munsterland murders terrorized West Germany, claiming 4 young women, Edeltraud van Boxel, Barbara Storm, Marlies Hemmers, and Erika Koons, who vanished after hitchhiking. Each victim was petite with dark hair and was later found strangled, their bodies posed in disturbing positions, devoid of signs. Van Boxel, pregnant and a street prostitute, disappeared on November 21, 1971. Followed by Storm in May 1972 after a night out. Hemmers vanished in August 1973 while hitchhiking, and Koons, a student, was last seen attempting to visit her mother in December 1973. The elusive perpetrator, dubbed the Munsterland Killer, remains unidentified despite ongoing investigations and media attention, including a recent documentary. The Fozzeville serial killer remains an elusive figure, responsible for the deaths of 13 women between 1999 and 2003 in Newlands West, near Durban, South Africa. The first indication of foul play surfaced in March 2002 when skeletal remains were discovered in a secluded area. However, it wasn't until 2003 that a significant finding occurred during a local burn-off, revealing a woman's body. Following extensive searches, police unearthed more victims, all aged 20 to 30, bound and strangled, with plastic bags covering their heads. The killer, believed to be charismatic and intelligent, has never been caught, leaving the investigation open and unresolved. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like if you found the video interesting and subscribe to be notified when another video drops.